Morning.
Good morning, good to see you.
All right, good seeing you.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing well, how are you?
Good to see you again. Remind me of your name?
Chris.
Chris. David. Good to see you again, Chris.
You too.
How's things going?
Mostly going
You were
well.
moving last time we
Yep,
saw you, I think.
we're all moved in. Unfortunately, kids have hand, foot, mouth
Oh.
this week, so they're still sick at home.
Okay. Yeah, I've got 2 young kids, and yeah, they've had that. They go to school, obviously. It's easy to get. It's easily contagious.
How was the trip? Good, good. Hey, Rick, you all right? Doing well. Doing well, man.
You ready?
Hey, how are you this morning?
What do I do for a living?
Johnny's working on his own. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You are on the roster.
She's shorter than that. That's why I was like, very hard.
What's up, Andrew?
What's up, sir? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh.
Is that a sick, tired?
Nah, just trying to balance work and sanity.
Yeah? You still at Goto?
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't work this Friday. They don't need me. That's actually the pleasure. That's a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
This is the place?
That's it. If that's big enough for you to back in, I can give you
Yeah.
a chair.
That's good. Beep, beep, beep,
Okay.
beep. And then I can just
There you
zoom
go.
right out.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Of course.
Are those handouts out there up there for us?
No, I don't have any for this class
Okay.
right now. So.
Things going right with you, Dave? Pretty good?
Good, man. Just staying tired. Busy. Tired. When I get tired, I eat worse. I eat terrible. Because I just crave, carbs and stuff. And then the worse I eat, the tireder I am.
It's a vicious
It's a
cycle.
vicious cycle. It
Yes,
is.
sir. It absolutely is.
So I'm just in that I'm in that moment right now where I'm tired, I'm eating terrible, still tired no matter what I do.
I keep telling myself I'm gonna start going to the gym again. I've
Yeah.
been telling myself that for like 3 years now, and it's like it's always something. Something comes up, and I don't have time.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a great gym at work, and I thought, well, I'll work out before work.
Been at the gym at work.
Oh, they got a huge gym at work. It's beautiful. It's free. It's part of the. Since they've done all these wellness plans with like all the insurances, they offer like on-site. They have an on-site doctor and nurse. You can go get blood work done if you needed to. But they got this crazy gym there, and I thought, well, I'll start going there. Then I started doing the math. I'm like, I already get up at 3:30 in the morning. I'm not getting up at 2:30 in the morning to go work out. I'm just not doing it. To be at work at 5.
Yeah.
So
I have a gym membership, but I'm just not motivated to go. For me to go, I have to go for like an hour and a half minimum.
yeah, that's
So
what
by
I'm
the
saying.
time you get in there, and I guess I could go work out and not shower and go back home, but like when I go, I'm showering and I'm getting dressed for the day.
You go in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, I have to before boys wake up.
Yeah, see, if I go, I would go like after dinner or after work.
Or I can't do it at night time.
And then what ended up happening was like
Good morning.
they had this 24-hour gym right over here, and I thought that'd be great because like there's some nights, some mornings like I get up on the weekends. I always get up early on the weekends, and that'd be a great time to go. Don't cut anybody's time or nothing. But
Yeah.
it's the afternoon. It's like I don't want to do nothing when I get home from work.
Yeah, for me to do anything, it has to be before the boys wake up, and it has to be on a day Kristen doesn't work, because she leaves the house probably 5:30 or 6 at the latest sometimes. So I would have to go at like 4:30, either to the gym or just outside to run. Like I have to get out there to do something. But
And it's
I can get into it. Now the thing about it though is like I can get into it, and I can obsess about it, like, and then I burn myself out.
Yeah.
I've never found something that's sustainable, consistent. I was doing good last year at the end of the year. I talked to your wife. I told her that like I had gotten to a point where I had lost like 20 pounds. I wasn't craving sugar, and she told me like my blood sugar was balancing out because I wasn't craving sugar. But then like I fall off around holidays. I can't be consistent.
Yeah, the one thing I'm blessed about is I'm not a big sugar guy. Like I don't eat a lot of sweets. I just like food. I just like to eat.
You do.
And all I started doing was like walking. I started walking like for a while. For a couple of weeks I started walking. I lost like 15 pounds just from walking.
Oh yeah.
And then I stopped because time wise. And I've maintained my weight. Like I haven't put it back on, which is great. So to me it's like I just gotta increase my activity and I will lose the weight I want to lose or get there.
Hello?
Good morning.
Yeah, I should be
Welcome.
400 pounds.
Come on in.
Hey,
Good morning.
come on in, water time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's okay?
Yeah, the other great thing is I work from home 2 days a week. So instead of going to the cafeteria and getting breakfast and lunch and just stress eating, I eat what she allows in the house. So it's a lot better. I wish I had the discipline of my son. Like Grayson,
Grayson.
he works 60 hours a week. He comes home at like quarter to 6 o'clock, and then at 6:30 he's at the gym 2.5 hours. Comes home at 9, eats, showers, goes to bed. Does it every day.
Yeah. You know, I Googled him the other day, and he comes up with his cage fighting and read some articles, watched a video of him being interviewed.
Ain't that crazy?
Yeah. Pretty cool.
That's the most I think I've ever heard him talk in public. He's got one Friday. Friday's his next fight.
Oh, okay.
So he's real pleasant to be around doing a weight cut. It scares me though, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I love watching it. It's really cool, but it does kind of scare me. I don't want him to get hurt. You know, I like seeing him live his life and do his thing and succeed. You know, it's been nice to watch him do
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff, but it does kind of scare me sometimes.
Oh, hold on. What time is it? Hey, Cliff.
Hey.
Battery's going okay?
What? Oh, yes.
Pitches work?
Yeah. It runs, I think.
But the pitches work?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I have to do that, just to be safe. Everyone I touch.
I wish everyone else did.
No, I just, well, if you've been bit enough times taken over from somebody else, you've taken a turnover from an aircraft mechanic, and they'll tell you what they did, right?
Yes.
So once you've done that 2 or 3 times, and you beat your head against the wall, you're like, never again. So, if you have the potential to fix it yourself, to make it right yourself, you do it.
Yeah.
Is this? Okay. Okay, I see you women. I was thinking, am I in the wrong class?
You're okay.
What?
You guys miss me? Wow. Thanks for that. That was actually your time. It wasn't.
All right. Good to see everyone this morning. How's everyone doing? Good.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Our class is lessons from Genesis. And so if you were in the class last Sunday, we talked a little bit about an explanation of the class. This is not necessarily a textual study. It's kind of a mix between a textual and topical. Every quarter that we offer classes, we have a ladies class. Every quarter we offer 3 classes at the moment, 3 classes. 3 adult classes. And we want one of those classes, studies, to be textual, a book of the Bible. And so this is the textual study, but it's not textual in nature where we're going through the text of Genesis. It would probably take us a good 2 to 3 quarters to go through the book of Genesis and look at it if we just went straight through the text. So what we're doing is we're going through the book of Genesis, but we're pulling out life lessons that we learn from the book. It's the first book of the Bible, and it offers a lot that we can learn, certainly. Good morning. Good morning.
Sorry.
So life lessons from the book of Genesis. Obviously, when we go to the book of Genesis, to the very beginning, Genesis 1 and 2, when we start there, we learn a lot from creation. And as Christians, we certainly believe in the creation and the account that we find in Genesis 1 and 2. And we live in a world where that's not the popular view. That's not the only view. There's a lot of other views out there. And so we will talk a lot about creation versus evolution. And so what can we learn from the book of Genesis? But as we look at creation, obviously we'll talk about creation and evolution. Last Sunday, our first lesson that we learned is the origin of the Creator. The 4th word in the Bible. In the beginning, God. Right? There He is. So we are introduced in the book of Genesis to God, the Creator. And we don't have the time to go through everything that we talked about last Sunday, but we're introduced to the Creator. We'll talk a little bit more about not the Creator, but biblical creation this morning, thinking about creation. In the book of Genesis, when we go to chapter 1 and chapter 2, there are 3 things that we read the origin of, the creation of. We read and learn about the origin of matter, the origin of life, and the origin of intelligence. So we're going to talk about that for just a moment this morning as we think about what we learn from the beginning of Genesis. And so the origin of matter, life, and intelligence. Let's talk about the origin of matter. One of the things that we learn from the book of Genesis is the origin of matter. Everything that we see around us, we learn the origin of matter in creation. We're not going to read the text necessarily, but just to open it before us and to see it there, to read the creation account, what God created, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He rested on the seventh day. The word there in the Hebrew for rested means that he just stopped, not that he was exhausted and he needed to rest. He just stopped creating. And so what do we learn from the creation account? Well, we see the origin of matter. Matter. Well, many atheistic scientists believe that matter is eternal. And so what you'll hear from scientists, from atheists, from evolutionists is that matter is eternal. Matter is eternal. But when we read Genesis, we see that matter actually had a beginning and that it originated with God. And so one of two is true. Either matter is eternal or God is eternal and God created matter. So one or the other is true, right? Many evolutionists and scientists believe that matter is eternal. Christians may not be able to explain the concept of an eternal creator, but the concept of eternal matter is even more difficult to explain. You know, it's very difficult when someone asks us, where did God come from? Well, how do you answer that? How do you explain that? Where did God come from? Well, he's just always been. I don't know where he, I don't know how to answer that to someone seeking an answer or just trying to test my knowledge. Where did God come from? I don't know a good answer for that. He's just always been. But then you reverse the question around, well, where did this world come from? Well, the Big Bang. Okay, well, what was in the very beginning? Just matter. Well, where did the matter come from? The only logical response to that is, well, matter has just always been there. Something has always been there. So it's easier to believe that God has always been there than to believe that matter has always been there. In fact, when we leave the book of Genesis, the Bible tells us that God created the world. There's other passages. For example, in John chapter 1, we read about the Word, who is the Son, Jesus Christ. So when we go to John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then you drop down to verse 3. All things were made through him, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. But John even confirms for us that, going all the way back to the very beginning, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him. So when we talk about the origin of matter, everything that we see around us, everything that we see, either matter is eternal and has always existed in some form, or there is a God, a creator, who created it. Those are really the only two options. And so for us this morning, a group of Christians studying the book of Genesis, in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, what we learn as we're learning life lessons, or we're talking about life lessons, what we learn is the origin of matter. What about the origin of life? We also learn the origin of life. Let's put them on the board so we can follow here. We have matter. We also have life. Where did life come from? Scientists who believe in evolution cannot explain how life, listen, came from non-life. If matter has always existed, where did life come from? Because one thing that we even see still today is that non-life cannot produce life. It cannot happen. We've never seen that take place. They simply have to assume that it must have happened because there are living beings. And so we do not see non-life producing life. So to those who believe in the evolutionary process and the Big Bang Theory, what you have to assume is that matter has always existed. And at some point, even if they cannot explain it, it has to produce life. It had to, because here's life. We are evidence of that in this room this morning. There's life. So at some point, matter, non-living items, objects, produced life. But in the creation account, in the book of Genesis, we actually see the origin of life. Now here's some things from the book. Now this is the book we're actually going through. So I am reading some of his material because I think he just says it so well. There's no way that I can say it any better. So there's some things that I just want to read from him, some thoughts. This is something that he says. He says, if non-living matter created living organisms in the beginning, then we should see similar things happening today. That's true, but we do not. Scientists can grow living organisms in labs. They can even produce human beings by artificially fertilizing eggs. But they cannot take a pile of dirt and produce anything that is alive. They must begin with life in order to produce life. We see that today. And I know there are people out there that will argue differently because they have been, I really sometimes feel like the term brainwash is kind of harsh, but it's true that they have been taught to believe that way. And once you believe something strongly enough, you'll believe it no matter the logic. Even if it defies logic, you will believe something if you've believed it long enough or it's just what you've been taught. And sometimes you'll believe it to go along with the popular opinion or idea of something. And so when we say that life cannot come from something that is not living, non-life, cannot produce life. When we say that, that's true, scientifically. We understand that. We observe that. But we believe it because of the book of Genesis. We also believe it because it's logical. But let's think about not just matter, the origin of matter. Not only do we see in Genesis the origin of life, but we also see the origin of intelligence. I told y'all last week I'm not a teacher because I cannot write and talk at the same time. And if I misspell anything on the board, just tell me. So we see the origin of intelligence. Not all life functions the same way. Not all living things function the same way. So let's just say, hypothetically, just for thought this morning, that matter has always existed. Let's just say that's true. And let's say, although we cannot explain it, that matter, something that's non-living, somehow produced life. Somehow. How then could that non-living matter that produced life also produce intelligence? When we look at life, not all life functions the same way. Plants are alive. I'm looking at some trees out the window, some bushes, a very well-manicured lawn. Right? I'm looking at plants that are alive. But they do not have brains. Dogs have brains. Well, some dogs. You should talk to Cliff about his dog. That's questionable. But we love Ollie. Ollie's a good dog.
He's different.
Funny dog. We've got some good memories of, I'll tell you, Ollie, back when Cliff, I don't know how long Cliff had Ollie. We just pick on Ollie. I pick on Ollie. I haven't seen Ollie in a long, long time. I'm sure a very different dog. But back when he was a puppy, before Kristen and I were married, I would go to Greg and Amy's house, and I would lay on the couch, like on my stomach, and Ollie would get on top of me and just sit. So I'm laying on the couch, and Cliff's dog is just sitting on me, like upright, just sitting.
He's not a small dog either.
He's not a small dog. He's a good, 60, 70 pounds. I don't know. Big dog. So funny dog. But back to being serious in our point. Dogs have brains, but they do not and cannot read books. Right? Human intelligence is clearly the highest form of intelligence. Where did that intelligence come from? So we see plant life, we see animal life, but we also see human life, and human life has the highest form of intelligence. Evolutionists want us to believe that ignorance produced intelligence. Think about that. That matter, ignorance, produced intelligence. That's like going uphill. How does that happen? How do you go from the bottom and create and go uphill? And so, biblical creation teaches us the opposite idea. That God is the highest form of intelligence. And He created plants with life, but not with intelligence. He created animals with very limited intelligence. And finally, He created human beings with the greatest intellect in the created universe. So it makes more sense, logically, that intelligence came from an intelligent creator, not matter. And so, this morning, we're not trying to prove creation. And this is not necessarily a class about comparing creation and evolution. That's not this class. There certainly could be a class on that if we wanted to study that more. But this morning, as I look at a group of Christians who we believe the Bible, and we believe in the Creator, and we believe in intelligent design, we believe the account of Genesis, that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. What we see and what we learn this morning from the book of Genesis, as we talk about the biblical account of creation, we see the origin or the beginning of matter. We see the origin and the creation of life. Life came from life, the Creator, and we also see the creation, rather the beginning of intelligence. And that can all only come from a Creator. Here's a point that he makes in the book before we move on. And this is true. And I've said this before, and I've heard other people say it, and it's a very true statement. A lot of individuals in the world, your evolutionists, your atheists, those who would support and teach the Big Bang Theory or something similar. They look down on people of faith. And they may argue something similar to, well, I don't believe in God. I don't believe that there's a creator. I don't believe that there's this magical being in heaven who created everything. I don't have that kind of faith. But here's something that is true. It takes more faith to be an atheist or an evolutionist. To believe that everything was created without a God takes more faith than to believe in a God that created everything. And I don't have enough faith to believe that everything that we see and the intelligent design of it all, I don't have enough faith in my life to believe that that came over millions and millions of years by accident. And so it takes faith to believe in evolution, just like it takes faith to believe in a God that created the world. So I guess the question is, what faith do we have? It's all faith. Because those who believe in evolution, did they see it? No. Can they always explain it? Well, no. It's really a theory. It's not even fact. It's just an evolutionary theory. But they will treat it as fact. So my point is simply this. Both sides of the aisle require faith. You either have faith in evolution or you have faith in a creator. So this morning, I know I'm speaking to a class of those who have faith in God. Let's think about a few more things. Let's think about this arena of thought. That God designed the universe. In the book, he goes through a couple of illustrations that we've heard before, but let's just talk about them this morning just to illustrate some points and to kind of drive home what we've already talked about. Let's talk about God designed the universe. The universe is designed, and you see that in everything. The reproduction system, everything that trees produce after their kind, animals after their kind. You see the intelligent design of the universe, the changing of the season. How does the seasons, how do they change every quarter or so throughout the year? How do we see intelligent design? Because God designed the universe. A couple of things that he says. He says, have you ever looked under the hood of your car? A couple of times. I have, not much. Not as often as Cliff. Cliff knows more about cars than I do, but I've looked under a hood, a time or two. I've changed the oil. I can't always open the hood of a car and tell you what the radiator is, but I can tell you what the battery is, right? Have you ever looked under the hood of your car? There are many parts, a radiator, a battery, tanks with various liquids, and so on. It is so obvious to all of us that these parts are essential for the operation of our cars. Now imagine someone told you that there was a tornado in a car factory and all the auto parts went flying and spinning through the air. Then they all landed perfectly in place so that the hundreds of parts that make up your car were accidentally fitted perfectly together. Total nonsense, right? Yet this is exactly what many scientists tell us happened with the creation of the universe. It was all a happy accident. Right? It doesn't make sense. But that's the logic that is often used. And I'm not trying to point fingers here this morning in class. I'm not pointing at a certain group of people. I'm just trying to present the facts. This is what we will hear. This is what we will hear. I've been to college and I've sat in non-Christian college classes and I've heard what is taught out there. So it's best to be aware of the arguments out there. Now, they're not going to argue that a car is made that way, but they will argue the universe is made that way. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense that everything just somehow, even over millions and millions and millions and millions of years, somehow just ended up perfectly designed together. He says this. Here's another illustration. He says, He says, let's imagine something less complex, right? So he says, T-shirts are generally woven together from cotton and other fabrics. Imagine that someone told you that a tractor trailer hauling cotton wrecked on the side of the road and tons of cotton went flying through the air. A truck went speeding by, hit the cloud of cotton, ripping it into shreds. Then those shreds, as they floated from the air to the ground, began to bind to one another and weave themselves together into hundreds of white T-shirts before safely landing in neat stacks. Ridiculous? This is the idea. This kind of idea is precisely what many of the finest scientists' minds are presenting to college students in some of the country's universities. The truth is, we know that T-shirts and cars were put together by someone. So logically, we understand cars are not made that way, T-shirts are not made that way. They are designed and built, right? And so how did the universe in its design just happen to exist the way it is? He talks a little bit about some things that we're not going to get too deep into this morning. Just the complexity of creation, the intelligent design that we see all around us. I read a quote years ago, and it's a quote that stuck with me, but I cannot remember who said it. Mark Twain or someone. It was someone that if I read the name, we would know the person. And I really hate, I cannot remember who said it, but someone said that the eyeball alone, in the complexity of the design of the eyeball, because when you see an image, you actually see it upside down. But by the time it reaches your brain and tells your brain what you're seeing, it flips the image right side up. The complexity of the design of the eyeball alone argues for a creator. So even if we just looked at something so small as the eyeball, the design of it, how did it come to be by accident, right? That's the question that we would ask. And we would understand, well, it did not happen by accident. So he goes into some other things about how the earth is tilted less than 23.5 degrees. How did it just happen to be designed that way so that it sustains life? Why does the earth make a full rotation every 24 hours so that it can sustain life, right? What would the evolutionists argue? Well, it's just an accident. But then the Bible tells us in Psalm 19 and verse 1 that the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament shows his handiwork, right? So, God created the universe. But then let's talk about evil. Let's talk about evil, because some will bring up, well, if God is real, there's a creator, and he created everything. So if you argue for a creator and you argue for biblical creation, then without a doubt, someone's going to bring up, well, what about the presence of evil in the world? Just out of curiosity, let me open it up to you. What would you say? Hey, Andrew, how you doing, brother?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, everybody.
Come on in. What would you say? Someone that brought up, what about evil? God cannot exist because there's evil in the world.
I mean, we're not robots, right? We don't operate the exact way that God wants us to. We're given a path, and we're given free will. And if we choose not to take that path, you know. And the other thing I'll say about the evil thing is that it's been proven by several quote unquote studies, sociological studies they call it, that humans have an inherent. That's what I'm looking for. They know the difference between good and evil, like from birth. Like they don't have to be taught the difference between what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And that is not something that just happens. You're not born with the instinct of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Like snakes are born, when snakes have babies, they don't take care of them. They're born with the instincts to hunt, kill, and survive. But what we're talking about is you're making a decision to do something good or bad. That's not an instinctual thing, or what we would define as an instinctual thing. So I do think that there's more to it, such as a soul that gives you the ability to define the difference between good and evil.
Yeah, absolutely. We would even maybe call that a conscience.
I'm sorry. I could've
Where
said that one
where
more.
did a conscience come from? How do, no matter where you go in the world, no matter the culture, no matter where you go, depending on the people you talk to, because some people's conscience have been hardened, calloused, right? The Bible even teaches us that we can get to a point where our conscience, although we have one, is seared, right? With a hot iron. It's like a calf. If you're raising cows and you take that hot iron and you brand them and that skin becomes tough, well, your heart can be that way as well. But excluding those people, right? Universally, we know that killing someone is wrong, right? You go, it doesn't matter where you go. Killing someone is against the law. Well, where did that knowledge of good and evil come from, right and wrong?
The interesting part is if you find people that quote unquote justify it, killing some people, they feel the need to justify it because they know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Which is even more. You think about that. You know?
Yeah, good points. Anybody else? What about evil? Even just with creation, what about natural disasters? Wouldn't God who created matter care about life? And doesn't he control the weather? Doesn't he control the weather? Wouldn't he stop a hurricane that's going to kill hundreds of people? Wouldn't he stop it?
He put the natural order in place.
Yeah.
Like free will, he put the natural order to do its thing.
He put natural order in place. We'll talk about natural disasters in just a moment. Because what often happens with a natural disaster is we look at if there's loss of life. If there's loss of life, we look at natural disasters from the standpoint of, look how terrible natural disasters are because someone died. And that is always terrible. But usually, with a lot of natural disasters, there's a lot of good that takes place or happens because of that particular natural disaster. And we don't really look at that and how it's maybe created that way. We'll get there. Anything else? Evil. Let's talk about free will. That would be my first go-to. Now, if we have to think about God. God is a good God, right? So we've talked about the origin of Creator God. We believe the Creator to be the God of the Bible, Jehovah God. God is described in the Bible as a good God. Psalm 73 and verse 1, Micah 6:8, Mark 10:18, 3 John 11, right? God is good, and certainly He is a good God. But we'll talk about free will in just a moment. As a father, I try to be a good father. Someone plant this illustration in your mind. I try to be a good father. If I tell my son, any of them, not to do something that I know will harm them and they do it anyway, does that mean I'm not a good father because they did something that I told them not to do? Right? Does that negate the fact that I tried my best and tried to be a good father? Right? So free will, we'll talk about that. So God is a good God. The Bible also teaches us that God is in control of the universe and everything within it. Psalm 24:1, Daniel 4:25, 1 Corinthians 10:26. Is He the God of the universe? Does He control everything? Well, yes, but maybe not in the same way that we think about control. He's not up there pulling the strings and causing this to happen and causing that to happen. Like Charles said, He set nature in motion. He created it and He put it in motion, and I believe that the environment has changed over the years from since creation. The flood changed the environment, I think, and different things happened. But He set things in motion. And so the first thing that we need to understand about evil is free will. Free will. When God created Adam and Eve, and He put them in the garden, He gave them free will. Now, are you thankful for your free will this morning? I mean, I am.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Could you imagine not having free will? Could you imagine if we did not have free will, we would be essentially robots, doing the commands of our Father, God, just living as robots. But we have free will to choose. I've been able to choose my life. I make decisions every day. I made the decision to be here. I've made the decision what I want to do with my life, who to marry. I make decisions all the time, hundreds, thousands, millions of decisions in my life because I have free will. Yes, brother.
Only thing God didn't give us in the garden, Adam and Eve, He gave them instruction, do not eat the tree of life.
Yeah.
But they let Satan take that from them. That's when free will came to them, because God didn't want them to have that free will of evil. So, but they chose that. So, if that wasn't intended to be, but that's so Satan, evil is always lurking. So we always have to be on our P's and Q's.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you brought up Satan. So where did Satan come from? Like we could trace Satan all the way back to heaven as an angel, and he's a fallen angel because angels also have free will or the ability to make decisions. And Satan was an angel in heaven, and he rebelled against God. He was lifted up with pride, the Bible tells us, and he desired to be God. He wanted to sit on the throne of God. So his sin was pride. He was cast out of heaven. And so we see that even angels have free will. Humanity, Adam and Eve, you and I, were created with free will. So when God put Adam and Eve in the garden, He had to give them free will, and He knew that. So what did God do? He created two trees. He gave them the tree of life, that as long as they ate the tree of life, they would live, because they had access to the tree of life. He also gave them the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And He told them, and we can go read it, we don't have the time for that, told them, do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There is the free will. Now they have a decision to make. Are they going to eat of the tree and disobey and rebel? Or are they going to obey the commands of God and abstain from eating of the tree? Now, when we read Genesis, we don't know how long. When you read Genesis, it seems like it's the next day. It seems that way when you read it, that God put them in the garden and said, don't eat of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And the next day, Satan's there. And the next day, Satan's tempting Eve, and she eats and gives it to Adam. It seems that it's a quick turnaround. But we don't know that. We don't know that for sure. It could have been quite a while. In fact, I would even suggest this. Satan might have appeared to Eve more than once, tempting her. And she could have resisted. We don't know. The way that it reads, it seems like it happened very quickly. But we do know from reading that there was a day that He appeared to her in the form of a serpent and tempted her. And she did eat. And she gave it to Adam, and he ate. And their eyes were open. They knew good from bad or from evil because of free will. There's a lot of evil in the world as a result simply because of sin. So we want to look at the bad in the world, the evil, and try to argue that there is no God because there's evil. But there's evil because of sin, and sometimes people just don't make good choices.
Amen.
Even I can fall victim to that and not make a good choice one day. And somebody might suffer because I didn't make a good choice. But I have free will. So evil. But what about natural disasters? I'm going to read just a couple of things because we have 5 minutes left. I want to get through a little bit more. He says in the book, what about natural disasters? God is in control of the weather. Psalm 148:8, Zechariah 14:17, Matthew 8:27. This means that God could stop natural disasters from occurring, right? After all, isn't it fair it isn't fair for a hurricane or a wildfire to kill hundreds or thousands of innocent people, is it? We must recognize that natural disasters are an essential part of nature. Wildfires. Now, sometimes they are the result of a crime. An arsonist will go out and cause a fire and devastate homes. And I understand the terrible side of that. Even in Georgia, it's been, we've seen it in Gatlinburg in the mountains. We've seen it in California. We've seen the devastation. But even just recently, close to home in South Georgia, fires. He says, we must recognize that natural disasters are an essential part of nature. Wildfires sometimes burn throughout the western U.S., restoring vital nutrients to the soil so that the forest debris can be cleared for new growth. There is good that comes from the burning of the land. When it gets out of control, there is the pros and cons. He says hurricanes serve at least two natural purposes. In the first place, they serve to clear heat and moisture from the equator. This is why we experience hurricane season. Only at certain times of the year does the area around the equator become warm enough for hurricanes to form. Second, hurricanes serve to bring necessary rain and moisture to certain parts of the world. For more than half of Japan's annual rainfall, so thinking about a place like Japan and just the geographical location of Japan, more than half of Japan's annual rainfall, for example, comes from the result of hurricanes in the ocean. We tend to focus purely on the human toll and conclude that fires and hurricanes are evil. In fact, they are necessary for Earth's climate system. And so they are just part of the world in which we live. They are part of nature. They're not evil. And it doesn't disprove a creator or creation. And one more thing that I would even add, thinking about what we would call evil, whether it's the consequences of sin that we see from others or just ourselves or Mother Nature, the world in which we live, it all just makes me want to go live in a place like heaven. And that's really what I think it should do, is show us that this place is not perfect and that it's broken and fallen. And I want to one day go live in a place that is perfect, like heaven, and a place where there is no evil. For just a moment, we have 4 minutes. Oh, we have 2 minutes left. I wanted to throw out some additional thoughts. That was the conclusion of that chapter. Here's a few more things that we see in the book of Genesis, just by way of the creation account and going outside of the creation account. Not only do we see the origin of matter, life, intelligence, we see the origin of the universe. We see the origin of man. That would be, again, life, Adam and Eve. We see the origin or the foundation of the home. Many of us come from a home, a father, a mother, children. You may even be a grandparent now, but you have a home, people. Even today, we're celebrating mothers, fathers, and mothers. We'll celebrate fathers in June for Father's Day. Well, hopefully we're celebrating them each and every day. But as Christians this morning, the nuclear family that we love and celebrate, fathers, mothers, and children, grandchildren, we see the origin of that in the book of Genesis, Genesis 2 and verse 24. As God said that a father shall leave his mother and his father and cling to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh, and they shall be united together. We see the origin of the home. We also understand the value of work, as God put Adam and Eve in the garden to work it. We see the value of work even from the very beginning. We also see the entrance of sin into the world. So we see the origin of sin in Genesis chapter 3. We talked a little bit about Adam and Eve. We see the entrance of sin into the world. We also see, as we continue going through the book of Genesis, and maybe perhaps we'll get there at one point, we see the origin of different races. As we look throughout the world, where did the different races and cultures come from? And perhaps we can trace it all the way back to the Tower of Babel and the origin of races. But we also see, thankfully, in Genesis chapter 12, and we'll be there at one point in our lessons, we see the redemption that God begins to plan through the seed of Abraham and how he's preparing to send his son. And Galatians 4 and verse 4 tells us that when the time is right, he will send his son and redeem the world. Thankful for that. All right, it's 9:45. First lesson that we learned from the book of Genesis is the origin of the Creator. The second thing that we've talked about, the life lesson that we learned from the book of Genesis is biblical creation, which takes up the first couple of chapters in the book of Genesis. We see the origin of life, and matter, intelligence, and any questions, comments? I'll end there.
I'm sorry. Oh, we were talking about evolution. What I find amazing, two things I find amazing is that the people that are the most fervent believers of evolution, they're almost the easiest ones to question evolution because they believe so strongly in it. And when you pull the veil back and show them cracks in the logic, it actually resonates harder. Like if you look, like I'm not gonna lie, I used to love going to the Museum of Natural History in New York. It was my favorite thing to go to look at the dinosaurs and all. Like I was all into that anthropology. I wanted to be a geologist or a anthropologist because I was so enthralled with like how we became. We came from monkeys, right? And then when you start reading about how they came to this conclusion that we went through, you learn about the different stages of man's development and everything. When you find out what they're basing that on, it just blows the whole thing completely out of the water. They find a tooth, and they name it Australopithecus. That's early man from 1.5 million years ago. Oh, they find a little shin. Oh, this belonged to a small species of man that came 5 million years ago called Ramapithecus. They come up
Isn't
with
Lucy just a few bones?
Yeah, they do that, and then when you really look at it, when you really start digging, you find out how much of this quote unquote what they think is based on such small things that it really just kind of And then on the flip side, if you look at what science is finding now, it literally they don't talk about it much because it completely changed the narrative. There's so many things that you find like I went to the art encounter at my kid's school, right?
Yeah.
And there was a book that I picked up, and it was like two simple things. How many types of blood are there in the world, in humans?
4.
8.
8.
Yeah. How many people were on the ark?
Oh, 8.
Right. Then another thing they were talking about, they were talking about like the age of the earth, right? But creation versus evolution. And one of the big arguments is there's no way 3 billion people can be on the earth in that short a time. And they broke it down by, literally down to 8 people, 6,500 and something years ago. Genetically, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're seeing more and more stuff come out that proves that what happened is the real thing. They always talk about like dinosaurs, right? You got people who say that dinosaurs and man, dinosaurs came way, way before humans, right? Well, look at the Chinese calendar, right? They have an animal for every year.
Yeah.
Every animal exists. Guess what? One of them is the dragon. Where did that come from? There's just so many things. You look at all the stories that happen.